Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast UFC edition. Today, we're going to be giving you a big UFC update on what's been going on in the world of mixed martial arts. So we have to have our UFC expert, Mr. Chuck Marlowe. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It is a lovely Tuesday. How is everyone doing? How are you doing, Martin?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. We haven't had you on since February, so a lot has happened since February to April.
Yes, a lot has happened. A lot has happened in that gap.
So what's going to be happening for you guys today? Chuck's going to be covering all the big fights that have happened between that gap, what's to come, what's going on in the UFC world that you need to know so you're up to date. He's going to tell you about what it was like to be at a UFC event, first time post-COVID. So we're going to be seeing that. So Chuck, let's just get right into it, man. We're going to just go in order. Let's give a quick recap. In February, we had UFC 271. What did you see on those main fights on that card? What did you like, didn't like, fighters going forward, and so forth?
Well, I saw Jared Cannonier.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have some big success in the middleweight division. The way he took out Derek Brunson, who was on the rise. Derek Brunson was moving up the charts.
Yep.
And Jared shut that down. And speaking of middleweights, the head fight of that card, Adesanya versus Whitaker. Whitaker showed why he is the number one contender. He showed why he deserves to be there fighting. And he shows that he is going to easily be Adesanya's toughest opponent every time he goes in there. I would like to see if they do a part 3 or not, even though he's lost twice. I think we still might have a third fight there in the future, because Whitaker showed that he can still definitely beat Adesanya, but he just needs to up himself a little bit more to get there.
Do they do third fights, especially if the person's, because Adesanya's 2-0 against him, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been cases where I think that they would do that. If that's what the people want, then that's probably what Dana White would do for the people. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a money man. He knows that if he puts on a third fight, that people are going to watch it. They know that the first fight and the second fight were both really good and it lived up to the hype. So I believe that if he puts on a third, he's like, all right, well, I know it can definitely sell. I know it can make money. So I think with the one that Whitaker lost in the last one, I mean, it wasn't completely unanimous. Like it was a unanimous decision, but I just don't think it was unanimously voted on by everyone to where they think that Whitaker was completely out of contention for that fight.
Got you. So with Adesanya, where does he go from here?
The only place he can go, which is up. So it just pretty much solidifies him a little bit more. It kind of verifies his name a little bit. Once you get those title defenses and once you beat those opponents, it kind of really helps you out, and it can move you up. And I think that's where he goes. I mean, he just stays with that belt and it just keeps giving him different contenders and different people to pick off of that list and just show why he deserves to be the champ.
Anything else that was big from UFC 271?
Derek Lewis's knockout, the way he got knocked out by Ty. Man, Ty really that elbow was vicious. He got him up against the gate. He beat the knockout king in his own game and knocked him out. Ty has really, 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 really moved himself up here. Because when you think about it, Derek Lewis was just fighting for a title. Derek Lewis was fighting for an interim belt. And that's what everybody wanted to see. They wanted to see Derek Lewis versus Ngannou. They wanted to see that. That was one that everyone was talking about to try and see if they can get him the belt. And so with Ty knocking him out, that moves him up into that contention. It moves him up into, I'm fighting 2-3 number one contenders, and I have that chance to go for the belt next. So, it really moves his name up in the heavyweight ranking.
Let's go then to 272, Covington versus Mazadov. There's a lot of bad blood. This fight was probably one of the most publicized fights to me, Chuck, as like a UFC fan, but not like an expert like you. To me, it was like one of the most publicized fights in recent memory. They were on Stephen A. Smith's show. Like, there was a lot of publicity and hype into this fight. Am I wrong? Or
Oh, no, this one was about bad blood. anytime you get two people who really hate each other and really genuinely just don't like each other, you're going to get something that sells. You're going to get something that is easily able to be promoted. Look at DC and John Jones. Mm-hmm. Look at TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt. Like, if you get two people who genuinely really hate each other, you can get them like to sell anything that's easily promotable.
So with this card, obviously they're the main event. And before we get to them, what else on this card surprised you?
Well, it didn't surprise me, but to see that Greg Hardy lost and then eventually got cut afterwards, that was no surprise to me. But it was definitely very just eventful, I guess you could say. I don't really care too much for Greg Hardy. I mean, you want to see someone do successful and change their life and get away from the past that they had. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think he had what it takes to be a UFC fighter. I don't think he has what it takes to be a fighter in MMA. He should just stick to fighting dummies and just make sure that he's not hitting anyone else.
Is he done?
Yeah, he's done with. I don't think he's done in general with MMA, but I think that he's done in the sense of just the UFC.
Okay. Yeah. So what else on this card before we just talk about that Bad Blood main event?
Other than Edson Barboza and Bryce Mitchell, I think that was a really good fight. Bryce Mitchell, who is ridiculously great. I just want to see where he goes from here. And I just want to see if he can bounce back from that loss. And then I want to see what happens with Barboza. I mean, he showed that he stopped a rising star. He really showed that he still has what it takes and that he has a chance to go up for a title defense eventually and maybe fight a number 5 contender. And then you can get him to a title fight.
Okay. Let's get into the main event. What did you see in this main event? It went all the way, right? 5? Yeah, it went 5 rounds. Yeah, it went all the way.
Where no one thought it would go.
Colby won. Covington. How did he win? Like, tell us how the fight went.
So basically, Colby beat his ass. I mean, textbook. Textbook whipped his ass. I mean, that's pretty much how I saw the fight going the whole time. I didn't see it going any other way. I didn't think that Jorge was more a technical fighter than Colby. I thought Colby's the better fighter. Colby is just the better fighter in this scenario and just in general. I mean, he's the only one I've seen actually put a little bit of question marks on Kamaru Usman so far. And if you just look at the striking output, I think he landed 266 strikes and compared to like Jorge's 90 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember off the top of my head, or it was like 133 or something. Either way, his output, it was just ridiculously high because the thing is about Colby, he just stays after you. His conditioning is great. Jorge Masvidal is a street fighter. Jorge Masvidal doesn't have stamina. He doesn't train stamina. He trains to hit hard and hit heavy and smash your face in. But Colby's a more technical fighter than that. He knows to not get into those battles, those brawls, and those different things with them. He knows to be elusive. He knows to stay on his toes. He knows to work his jab. He knows how to fight a technical, good, clean fight. And that's why he whipped his ass every single round. And he won by unanimous decision because this man just pretty much beat the shit out of him. And, like, you still have all that stuff that happened afterwards. He just really beat the shit out of him in the octagon. But
where did they go from here, Chuck? Is there a rematch? Is there any possibility of that, or?
No, there's no possible rematch ever with them. That's just bad blood at this point. I mean, you have Jorge who beat the dog like breaks off of him in a restaurant, had him running out of the restaurant like a little punk because he's talking smack about his family. So, I mean, I think Colby was a little bit of a punk in that aspect to call the cops against Jorge, even though you were the one talking smack. I mean, if you know you can beat his ass in the octagon, so why not understand that you can beat his ass outside? You know, like, I just think he pulled a Punk move. But like I said, Jorge Masvidal is a street fighter, and that's why he beat his ass in that scenario, is because he's a street fighter. That's what he does best. He can beat him in the streets, but he's not going to beat him in the octagon in a regulated fight.
Where do they both go from here?
Masvidal, he goes down. I think this one really hurts him a little bit, especially the tantrum afterwards and the antics that happened afterwards. Colby, it's more of a respect thing. That little, like, bad boy, tough guy, like, ego, like, alter ego that he has to put on, like, he's in the WWE, like, he needs to put on a persona. That's not who he is. That's not who Colby is. He's a punk. He really is. He's just a punk. I mean, it is what it is, but he's a good fighter. I give him that. He's a good fighter, but he's not the tough guy that he thinks that he is. And he needs to stop putting on the act and just be who he is. And I think people will accept him more as fans. And I think that it also just move his name up a little bit more. But I don't think he's going to go really too much anywhere because he can't stop the man with the belt. So for that division, it's pretty much just who's going to stay at the number one contender spot, because Kamaru keeps beating everyone else's ass who keeps coming for the belt.
Going forward, now we head to 273. What did you see in this card? What was special about it?
Oh man, this card. That was this weekend.
Yeah,
this was a really, 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 really good card. Loaded full of fights. But I want to get to the main. I'm going to get to the main three. The one that everyone really wants to know about. Khamzat Chimaev. He showed that he is here, and the hype is real. He showed that the hype is real. This man has so much hype behind his name right now. And him keep winning. If he keeps winning like this, if he keeps putting on fights like this is only going to make him much more of a fan favorite. He stood in there. He took hits that I've seen most people get knocked out by. And he sat there and he stood there. He banged with Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns showed that he still definitely has fight in his heart and that he can still fight at a top level and that he's definitely in that contending scenario as well. But Khamzat got the best of him. He just had a higher output. He had a lot more strikes where he landed. He did better overall as a fighter. And he just controlled him when he needed to. He got the takedowns where he needed to. But if you look at the strikes and the percentage, basically, Gilbert Burns had the advantage, but Khamzat definitely dominated the fight more with the sense of power. He knocked him down more. He was able to get on top of him. He was able to put his rule on basically more than he could.
So I guess with this card that just happened, how many implications does this have for like bigger things to come? Are any of these people going to be top contenders that we're all going to see in the future?
So Khamzat, he's definitely fighting Colby next. Dana said that before him and Gilbert Burns even fought. He said if Khamzat wins, he goes to fight on Colby, maybe on that CBS card. And then Gilbert Burns, I don't think this moves him down too much, but I think it moves him down a little bit because he just recently lost and he's been on a little bit of a losing streak. So I think he only goes a little bit down, but I think the level that he fought at it justifies why he doesn't go down that much.
Anything else on UFC 273 that just went down that caught your eye?
Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan, that one was a really good fight. Peter Yan, in the end, thinks that he won. I think Aljamain Sterling showed why. He really made a name for himself here, and he really showed the fans that he still fights a little bit scared, but I think he really showed the fans that this belt, I didn't get it just off of the disqualification. I got it because I'm a good fighter, and I deserve to be here fighting for the title. He had the takedown advantage. He had the ground control time. I think the ground control, I can't remember. It was like, I think in the 7 minutes, the ground control time, maybe even more. But he basically got on his back, wore him like a backpack, like he said, did all his damage from the back, and really just showed why he was a much better fighter than him. and really put it on them.
Okay. So we're going to go back in time a little bit. This just happened in the weekend, but there was also something else that was actually in Columbus, Ohio. Chuck, you got to go to UFC in person on the 26th of March in Nationwide Arena. First time they were back since they had to cancel the previous one because of the pandemic really in full swing. How did it feel to be live at a UFC event?
Wow. So it felt amazing. It was the crowd, the fans, the atmosphere, the everyone from the UFC actually, like Bruce Buffer, you have DC, you have John Anik, you have all of them. And they were Herb Dean, like everyone was coming up to the crowd, taking pictures with fans. They were really involved with the fans, making sure everybody got some attention. Like they stood there for like a good solid 20, 30 minutes, making sure that everyone came down, got a picture. Like you could come all the way from the top of the rafters and make sure that everyone got their pictures and got a little bit of time and felt like they were part of the event. It was just amazing. The crowd was electric. The way that everybody tuned in and was watching each fight, it was amazing. First time they've been here in 13 years, and it was amazing, and they want to come back.
Do you think that Columbus will be able to get one of the big UFC 270, well, by that time, maybe a 280 or 290 something, or is that only strictly a Vegas, Abu Dhabi type thing?
Well, you know, with Columbus fighters coming out, and the more Columbus fighters that do come out, and if you produce a lot more Ohio fighters, I see there being opportunities for that. Ohio has been on the rise a little bit for fighters coming out of here. And I think that this only shows the UFC that the Ohio has interest in this, and then that Ohio will bring in a good crowd and bring in good revenue and good numbers. And I think that they will bring it here more often.
Okay. Going from that then to the next couple fight nights that are going to be happening. First, we got, you want to talk about the fight nights that come up, or you want to hit 274 with Gachi's on? Ooh, I like him.
We could hit 274.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, 274, Oliveira and Gaethje. Yeah, we can hit that one.
So with them, it's looking like they're going to be the main event. It's looking like also Rose is going to be going against Carla Esperanza in the women's straightweight title bout. What do you think of, first let's go women with Rose and Carla. What do you think of that matchup?
I think Rose is just a way more better technical fighter, in my opinion. I think Carla, she definitely has what it takes to win. I think that she has a pretty significant background, but I just think that Rose is just so polished and so well versed, and her striking is so clean, and her stamina is just at another level than Esperanza. And I think that she pretty much dominates this fight. I don't know why, but I just have a very strong feeling that she dominates Esperanza and shows that she's on a different level, and she's at a different contention level than her.
What do you think is going to happen with the main event?
Charles Oliveira and Gaethje. I think Gaethje, I don't know. This one, I'm a little bit dicey because Gaethje, he has heavy hands, you know. If he catches you, he's putting you like down a little bit, and he might even hurt you. He's going to stun you. He's going to be in the fight regardless of how bad you're beating him. He's always going to be in contention. So I don't know. I think Oliveira fights the more technical fight. I think Gaethje, he's still a stand and bang type of guy, and he likes to get into those trades, and he likes to just throw hands sometimes, and then gets a little bit too loose and a little too wild. I think Oliveira is still keeping that strong technical background in the sense that he's like, well, hey, I have a title I'm defending. I have something that I want to hold on to. You know, he's going to think in the back of the head, bigger picture. I think Gaethje's more of a in the now, in the moment, let me get the crowd hype type of fighter.
Any matches on this card that we should be on the lookout for people who don't know?
Oh my God. Yes. So Michael Chandler and Tony
Ferguson. Okay.
You have the battle of CTE brain right here.
Oh, Lord.
These two are about to stand in the middle of the ring for 3 rounds, and they're going to just throw hands. I'm already calling this now. I don't know. It's going to be a knockout, maybe. I don't know. I've seen these guys just take vicious punches after punches in fights and just continue to push forward. I think this fight is probably going to win fight of the night and the most exciting fight of the night, because those two are going to stand in there and they're going to leave every single thing they can on the table. They are going to just throw hands and they're going to try to rip each other's heads off. So I think that that's going to be the best fight of the night. And I think it's going to be so explosive. I can't wait for that one. That one is one where I say, if you've never watched a UFC fight before, watch that one. Because, like I say, spend that $75, buy that pay-per-view, and watch this fight. If you watch any fight ever in your life, I think this will be one of the best fights in a long time.
Going from that card, which is coming up May 7th, 10 p.m. This one's going to be in Phoenix. Going from there, let's talk about some of the fight nights coming up, because there's some fights you wanted to highlight on that too.
Oh, yeah. So you have April 30th, Rob Font versus Marlon Chito Vera. I think that's going to be a really, really good fight. You have a number 8 versus a number 5 in the bantamweight division. And the bantamweight division is producing bangers, and they're producing a lot of great fighters, as you know. So, like, I think that one's going to be really good. You have Rob Font, who's 19-5, and Chito Vera, who's like 18-7-1, I think. Mm-hmm. I think I have Vera winning this by knockout in the 4th round. I think it's going to be he's just going to use his reach a little bit. He's going to get to where he needs to go. I feel like he's a longer fighter, even though he has like the 1-inch disadvantage in reach. I think he still is just much more lengthier than Rob Font when I watch him fight. And I think he really just gets in there. He picks his strikes really well. And I think he's going to win by knockout in the 4th.
Okay. And then what about the other ones that are coming up? Because it looks like there's a lot of fight nights coming up.
Yeah, they have one scheduled out for each weekend in April. So every Saturday in April, they have one. Like on the 23rd, I think it's Lemos versus Andrade.
Yep.
Andrade, who's kind of on the fall, but also on the rise. I think that she shows why she is at that number 1 contender, because there's still people questioning why she's at the number 1 contender. Mm-hmm. But I think she really shows why on that fight she deserves to be still in that decision for a title fight. And I think if she wins this, she goes on to fight Rose. I think she really dominates Lemos in this, and she really puts a hurt on her.
And then you also have the April 30th one, which will be the last fight night of the month with Font and Verna.
Yeah.
And then you go from there to 274. And then, and then you go into UFC Fight Night going forward. And then they have to be determined for July and October for big UFC events. Chuck, what news is going on in UFC that people need to be aware of?
There's a lot. So we're starting to see a little bit more of an emergence of John Jones. You even see the UFC maybe making a little bit of post about him here and there. So I think that's something in the works for him, and I think that he maybe breaks out at some point and gets out of a timeout. And I think he starts a little bit of noise in the heavyweight division. And then Conor always making some noise because it's Conor. Mm-hmm. I see him. He's still trying to pick fights with Kamaru Usman. Mm-hmm. And I see that maybe potentially happening because there's no one that's really touching him right now. And Dana, being Dana, wants to put on a big mega box office hit, and he wants to make some money. So why not get his favorite fighter in there versus him, and then also try and get him another belt? I don't know. I see that maybe potentially happening in the works. But yeah, other than that, not too much else going on. There's just a lot of fighters on the rise right now. There's a lot of different fights going on, a lot of different fan favorites moving around. And I think the UFC has some big things they're going to be announcing soon.
I see Francis Ngannou. I've seen him on some podcasts and stuff. He's been talking about Dana, and we've also brought up Dana with like the talk about paying fighters again. Like, is there ever going to be any progress on that?
I don't think so. As long as there's people who love fighting, and as long as there's people who need to feed their family, I think that that's always going to be a problem. Dana's going to always be able to find fighters. He's always going to be able to find people who will take that low amount of money and fight, because to them, that's not a low amount of money. To them, that feeds their family. To them, that's what they need to survive. And to them, like, fighting is what they love. So who cares how much they're getting paid? I'm just doing this because I love to fight and I want to be one of the best ever. So for some of the fighters, that's what it is. And then for some of the fighters who made it to a certain point, the money means a lot more to them than it does fighting, because they have a family to feed, like you said, but they're also trying to create generational wealth a lot of the time. And they're putting their life and limbs on the line, and they're not getting paid as much as other promotions and other fighters and other boxers and other different athletes of that nature who are also making box office hits. So Dana definitely has a lot to work on. I think, like I said, I've said to you previously, Dana is a marketing guy. He's more about the company. He's a company man. He's not a employee man. Mm-hmm. He's like HR. He appears to be your friend, but he's not your friend.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm seeing that, and Ngannou talking about how one of his next fights is going to be with boxer Tyson Fury. So it's like, last time a UFC person fought a boxer, they didn't really come back all like that, and that was Conor, because he got the biggest payday of his life.
Yeah, and that's why they go away, because they see, dang, hey, the money's really nice out here. I'm famous. People will pay me just off of my name, but I won't get paid in the UFC. So why stay here? And why not go pursue other ventures? So that's what's going to end up happening, and he'll keep losing fighters one after another if he doesn't figure this out.
Okay. Chuck, anything else going on in the UFC world that we need to know? You just updated us on 3 past pay-per-views, actually 4, because of the one in Columbus, the fight nights. You told us what's coming up next. Anything else that's been going on in the UFC world?
Not much. That's pretty much everything else that's been going on right now.
All right. Well, Chuck, if you want to, do your plugs and go that, and then we'll close it up.
Shout out to the wifey. Just want to tell her I love her. Appreciate everything she's been doing. Been really busy lately. Then I'm back on the grind. I've been working out, running, trying to take care of myself. Actually get back into this UFC stuff and this MMA stuff. So I appreciate her for allowing me to take time to do that. Shout out to everybody. Everybody just keep doing good things in the world. War is going on right now. So I just ask everybody to do a good deed and make somebody happy and put a smile on someone's face every day. So yeah, that's it.
Well said. Well said. Again, just want to thank everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Thanks, Chuck, for being our UFC expert. We always appreciate him dropping some dimes on what's been going on in the fight world. Hopefully next time we don't have a 2-month gap on UFC updates, and we try and keep them once a month. That will be the goal. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. You guys take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.